X24, are you awake? I am not. Still hangover time. But it's 1 o'clock and we have Youth on stage and Tubesockor. So they're gonna do a presentation and a demo about Sidfactory 2 and hardware support. Are you guys already ready? Need a couple of minutes? Ready? Great. So let's hear it for Youth and Tubesockor.
Hello? Do you hear me? Hi, I'm Youth. My handle is Youth. I'm a big fan of Sid music. I try to create my own Sid music as well. And for that, I'm using Sidfactory 2. Sidfactory 2 is a cross-platform SID tracker made by Lexity. I don't think I have to... Yeah. Can you show the presentation? Yeah, Sidfactory 2 is a tracker made by Lexity for use on Windows, macOS, and Linux. I don't think I have to introduce who Lexity is because I don't think anybody here doesn't know who he is, so I'm going to skip that. And this is Thomas, and he's a real hardware wizard, and he made some support for hardware SID synths in Sidfactory 2, so you can actually use a cross-platform tracker with real SID hardware. I'm also doing some development on Sidfactory 2, and I got involved in that because I'm a big Lexity fan. He's one of my heroes. And he made Sidfactory 2, so I was over the moon. Finally, I had a tracker that I could make music on my own laptop in Lexity's famous routine. Except it was only working on Windows, and I'm a Mac user. So I offered to help him make a Mac OS version and also a Linux version. And now I'm doing some minor development on Sidfactory as well. I'm just going to real quick go through what Sidfactory is and what the features are. I'm not going to go into depth because the demo is more about the hardware than the software, but I'm just going to give you a small introduction. This is the outline for our presentation. So, like I said, I'm just going to talk a bit about Sidfactory 2, and then we're going to skip to Thomas, and he's going to tell us all about ACID, which is a protocol to drive hardware with SID synths, and then he's going to tell a bit about TheraPSID and DeepSID, and TheraPSID and Sidfactory 2. So Sidfactory 2, it is a lot like GoTracker. Most musicians here, they use GoTracker, and Sidfactory 2 is very similar, except of course it's built by the legends Lexity and JCH, and it's got Lexity and JCH drivers, and to me that means a lot, being a big fan of them, and of course they use it themselves as well. It also imports GoTracker, so if you want to switch, we made it easy for you. Cheese cutter and even 4-channel mod files. You don't get the samples, but you get the note data as a start for your SID. It's got a Packer relocator, but that's obvious. You need that if you want to make music for demos. And it's got support for Windows, and macOS and Linux. We've got Lexity and JCH. They're using Windows. I'm using macOS, so we're actively supporting that. Linux. We're still looking for people that maybe can help us maintain that version, but it seems to be working. We haven't had any complaints yet. Sidfactory 2 supports multiple songs, unlimited undo, so if you made a mistake, you can always go back until to the point where it still sounded good. It's got the JCH editor style continuous sequences. People who have used the JCH editor will recognize what that is. I'll show a screenshot in a minute. It's got instrument names and order list text to keep things a bit organized and structured and visible. And it's got different color schemes. It's also well documented. JCH made a nice manual. He's got a tutorial on internet, and he's made an in-app help overlay, which I will show also, where you can just in the app get help about what all the functions of the editor are and how the driver works. And it's open source, so you can go to GitHub and you can submit features and bug reports and even try to build something yourself in Sidfactory 2. This is what it looks like. Well, musicians will recognize this. It's 3 sequences with notes, like every tracker. The tables for the instruments, wave, pulse, filter, ARP, all that stuff. And you see on the left, you see that in the order list you can put some text, just free text, whatever you want to put there to help you keep track of what all the numbers mean. And you've got instrument names and command names. And you see also an example of the continuous sequences. In the left of the track you see the sequence number, and then on the right you see the notes, and it's just one continuous flow. So you can just keep typing and not worry much about in which sequence you are. Yeah, that's about it, I think, for the screen. Oh, it's got nice pulse and filter measurement for if you want to keep track of your filter sweeps and your pulse sweeps. Those are moving in real time, of course. Yeah, that's about it. Like I say, you can see here the driver number. It actually supports multiple drivers. So Lexity has supplied a few drivers, like the standard driver, but also drivers that take less raster time. A driver that sounds exactly like Rob Hubbard. So if you use that, you sound exactly like Rob Hubbard. It's very easy. If you load different drivers, the tables adapt. So some tables disappear, you get some other tables. It's very flexible like that. Oops. This is the same screen, but with the help overlay. And you see around the screen, you see all the keyboard shortcuts and also information about what the magic hex numbers in the driver tables mean. You can use that to, if you don't want to go through the whole manual. Short bit about the team. We've got 4 people now really developing on Sidfactory 2. So that's Lexity, Thomas Peterson, Jens Christian Hoof. I think everybody knows him. It's not spelled ICH, it's spelled JCH, I see now, but everybody knows that. Me, myself, Michel, Youth, and Thomas Tubesockor. Lexity, I don't think I need to introduce him. He's a Sid legend, he's the lead developer. He did the design and he built almost everything. It's really his tool, and he's the end boss. So everything that we do has to go through him because it's his baby. JCH is also a Sid legend. He built the importers, where you can import code tracker, cheese cutter, and modules. He was also involved in the design because it looks a lot like his own editor. Like I said, he built the manual and the help overlay. I did the Mac OS version, and I'm maintaining that and using that. And I put the whole thing on GitHub, and when we decided to go open source, and I keep track of the issues and the bug reports and the feature requests. And I don't regret it, but Lexity and JCH, they didn't have any experience with Git, so they sometimes curse me for introducing them to Git because it's just, for a beginner, it's really hard. And I built some minor functionality in the editor itself. Tubesockor, standing next to me, he's the best Sid newcomer of 2024. That's my opinion. He's an embedded developer, and he, like I said, he built the ASID support into Sidfactory 2. If you want to try out Sidfactory 2, you can go to GitHub. You can try to compile it yourself from source code, but you can also get the official release binaries. From there, it will link to the blog from JCH, and you can get official binaries there for all platforms, Windows, macOS, and Linux. And if you have feature requests or bugs, you can put them there, and if you're lucky, then we'll look at them and find some time to fix things. What's on the roadmap? Multi-speed player. It hasn't got a multi-speed player yet, but it's in the making. It's almost there. MIDI in maybe, because we've got ACID support now. We had to include MIDI functionality, so it's probably a small step to make MIDI in work as well. Full screen support, so you are not distracted by other things. You can focus on your SID composing. And a C64 font, which means it's more retro looking, and you can fit twice as much stuff on the screen lengthwise, vertically. This is what the C64 font looks like. So it's a smaller font, it's 8x8, and the original font was 16 pixels high, but you can fit more on the screen, and you get that nice retro look. And very soon is ACID support coming to Sidfactory 2. It's not yet in the official release, but it's working, and we can show that it's working. So it's going to be released very soon. So with that, I'm going to give the mic to Thomas, and he's going to tell us all about ACID, I have to say, and how it came about and what you can do with it.
Thanks. First of all, really nice to be here. First time at X, first time at almost any scene event, and just did my first SID yesterday. I have been doing other things before, like, yeah, thanks. I've been doing chiptune and other types of music for a long time, so, but for some reason I have never done a SID. That's one, the first. Also needed to learn Sidfactory 2, so that was the reason. Anyway, Mikael talked about ACID support, and I'm going to just give a little brief introduction on what that is. And we can start with some history. Maybe some of you know what this is. It's the SID station from Electron, a Swedish company. It was developed back in 97, 98 by a group of students as a part of a university digital design project, basically. Those people were actually my colleagues, my classmates, and I actually talked about this with them before. I was never in that group. I did other things, but one of them was this guy. Maybe some of you know him or knew him. He unfortunately passed away in 2007. Daniel Hansson, Matrix of Zone 45, probably other groups as well, Nordic Beat. So he and a group of his classmates created this one. A SID station, which is a SID synth, regular MIDI controlled synth based on a SID chip. After that, actually the company Electron was built, and they're still one of the biggest groovebox, synthesizer, drum machine companies in the business. After SID station, a number of other SID-based synths has arrived. We have the Therap SID, which I'm going to show here a bit here, MIDI-box SID, Hard SID for you, and the Hard SID, PCI, and so. Unfortunately, not longer supported. So, ACID, what is that? So basically, I can go back to this picture again, showing that what he wanted to do was to play back regular PSID files on a synth. So they wanted to have some kind of player to play the regular SID files, but on a hardware instead. So they came up with this little protocol, simple protocol called ACID. It's a MIDI-based protocol that, MIDI is slow, runs at 31 kilobits per second. It has, in this case, 40 bytes of packets, and it updates all the SID registers, which means that there's a maximum sustained rate of about 75 hertz. That's the maximum limit of regular MIDI. Normal MIDI, normal SID files is running at 50 hertz, of course, so 60 hertz, so it will work. But if you go over that, this won't work. And I extended that, actually, so I will come to that later, but in the regular ACID protocol, this is the case. So there are other products with ACID. We have a MediaBox SID, and we have, even on the Commodore 64, there's an app called Station64, which is a synth, but it runs also ACID, so you can play back things with that. All right, so I want to go a little bit more further on the extensions that I made and what we've done with Sidfactory 2. So I'm going to show a bit about TherapSid and DeepSid. First, a little bit about TherapSid. It's a synth from a company called Twisted Electrons. They developed this in 2000, I don't know, 15, 16 maybe. And this is the Mark II. There's a Mark III that came up some year ago. 2 SID slots, audio in-out, MIDI in-out, and CV gate. 3 LFO CV inputs is a few things that it has. I bought a TherapSid in 2018, I think, since it was really promising. It had 2 SID slots, it had multiple knobs, it has knobs for every function. Since I was back then talking about the SID station with Daniel, I thought like maybe this could be the ultimate SID synth. So I had big hopes for it. I bought it and it didn't really work well. It had bugs, it was strange in some ways. So I left it at the side for many years. But last year, they released it as open source. So the firmware got open source. The products are still sold and everything, but to expand on the speed of development, they did the firmware to open source. That I thought was great. So directly I took it and I fixed some bugs and contributed them back. And then I saw, okay, maybe it's time to get this ACID thing running as well. Not particularly hard, just updating the registers over MIDI. Implemented it on these TherapSids and works fine. But then you had all these controls that is so beautiful, all these LEDs that are so beautiful. You can start with showing what's actually happening in the SID file by flicking the LEDs. And then also moving the knobs and affecting the performance. And in the end, at some point, someone could do a remix of SID files. That would be great, I thought. So that I implemented, and it also became in the main line. So it's been in the main line since months ago. But to play back these files, you need an ACID player. Electron released, because ACID in itself, hasn't been used much since early 2000s, actually. So, and the same goes for the players. The Electron original ACID X and ACID XP is really old. The XP works on Windows, but the ACID X works only on really old Macs. So there was I'm a Mac guy, so I didn't have anything. There was a SID play, modified SID play you can compile, and it was a bit of a trouble to get it working, but it worked. It would be good with something better. So in comes DeepSid, because DeepSid, as you all know, is a really good online SID player by JCH. It's a huge library, multiple emulators, and it's really good. This is browser-based, and it works on any OS, so why don't add ACID support to DeepSid? And since it's open source, that's what I did. I added that support also to DeepSid. So you can select, up on the emulator tab, you can select the media output instead. Okay. So maybe I should show something of what this does. I can start with showing a little bit about what I have on my table here. Yeah. Yeah. Seems to work. Okay. Yeah, okay. So here I have a TherapSid. On the left side is a Mark II, and on the right side is a Mark III. They are very similar, it's just a different form factor. But they have 2 different SID slots, and in the case of this guy, I have a 6581 and an 8580. In this one, I have an ARM2 SID. I will come to that later as well. So in this case, you have two of these. Two playing back to dual SIDs or multi-SID would be great. So we needed some way to get the MIDI protocol to run faster, because 75 Hertz will not be enough. So then I used the another Electron product, actually, a MIDI interface called TM1. That one can have speeds up to 10 times regular MIDI after some kind of negotiation with the device. It was at some point intended to be a new MIDI interface to rule the world. It didn't really succeed with that, but it exists. You can actually still buy it. There are a few left. They are not super common, but they exist. In this one, you can get speeds up to 10 times if you have access to the firmware, which of course we have on the TherapSID. So that's why I implemented Turbo MIDI, which is called, on the TherapSID as well. So then you can run up to 8 times the MIDI speed, which is well enough for doing multi-SIDs or multiple speed SID files. And since it has 2 of these SID slots, you can also put regular SIDs or ARM SIDs or something in it. And one thing I also did with this was that I added specific ARM SID support to it, so that you can configure the ARM SIDs in a browser directly to this TherapSID. This particular TherapSID is running an ARM2 SID, and the ARM2 SID contains 2 SIDs inside. So it's one chip, but you get 2 SIDs. You have a little extra bracket that you put in the other slot. But it actually also has the YM3812, is it 12? The FM synth built in as well. So you can run it in either 2 SIDs, a SID plus FM, or even 3 SIDs. So it actually has 3 SIDs inside. And with a little hardware fix, it was possible to modify the TherapSID to utilize that one. That's also in the main repo and endorsed by the manufacturer as well. There's a little simple hardware patch you should do, and to have 3 SIDs. So this one is actually running 3 SIDs. And with MIDI, you can do 9 voices polyphony, which is quite cool. All right, so I should show something. Let's see if I can, maybe I can just show what we have on the screen here. As you see, there's our SIDs. All the SID parameters are here. You have one of the channels, 3 channels, with the regular waveforms, pulse width, ADSR. You have 3 LFOs. You have filter and arpeggiator. But in the remix mode, I'm using it to modify the parameters. Let's see if we can play something and hope that it works. I'm going to do this and move over to this. Okay, this is a person you know. Let's see if we can get this song to play. I will now use DeepSID to play back directly from the browser using MIDI over to the TherapSID here. Well, seems to work. Okay. So this you all know, but you can also see here on the screen. I think maybe you should do like this, so you can see everything. Right. You can see the LEDs flashing, so it's useful. Then you can mute channels or change waveforms. And this one doesn't use any form of filter, so we can, for example, add filters on this one. And if you're doing this in some good way, you can remix things. Yeah. And then also you can do things like changing the pulse width or adding ring modulation, changing the ADSR. And go back to the normal case. So that is one example of what you can do with it. And if you have your own SID files, you could remix them and do things with it. Okay? And also, since this is an ARM SID, it has multiple SIDs I mentioned, and it has thereby also the possibility of running the FM SIDs. Actually, there exists no FM SIDs. You have to create them yourself. I did that. It's a very actually simple process, but I combined them, and you can actually play back even those kind of files. Let's see if this works. This is Jammer's Ed in his lib. And if you have FM, you can even remix the FM things. And do weird things, like muting all the channels. All the FM things. Yeah. Or 3 sets. This is 3 SIDs running over MIDI from the browser. Okay? Great. So that was a little bit of what you can do with the remix capabilities and the SID player. So, of course, if you have your own SIDs, you can do it and prepare stuff in advance. Okay? And the next thing we want to show is how to do it in Sidfactory 2. Let's see. Switch this. Okay. So, if you want to run this in Sidfactory 2, I implemented it the regular way, adding acid to it, but quite immediately, I think it was Laxity who I think you too mentioned that it doesn't sound right, something is off, something that we never heard about before. So, because it's been played on Deep SID and other acid players since the 90s, so, but in this case, something was off. And it turned out that the actual protocol is only updating the SIDs in a specific order, basically numerical order. And with the latest drivers, it's the order of writing is super important, and also the timing is super important to get the right timing. So we wanted to have a way of actually sending the data correctly over so that it's going to be replicated correctly. So then we added a few things to the protocol. We added custom write order and custom timing. So you basically send over a schematic of how it should work before, and then it will use that. So with that, it was easy to then continue in Sidfactory 2. And by that, you can also use Sidfactory and play back on the real hardware directly, and also remix if you want directly. I can show that. So, okay. So let's see. This is now the regular Sidfactory, but you can see up here it says output acid. So it will output the data to one of these therapsids. This one actually. This is the tune that I made yesterday. So let's see if it plays. More volume, please. So this is now using directly from the Sidfactory with the correct timing, hopefully. And you can also remix. Okay. But I was playing from the SID tracker here, from Sidfactory. So now you can actually use it as a kind of a MIDI sound box. But, and hopefully we'll see if we can add also MIDI backwards, so you can enter notes into it and play back. And you can already today preview from it. So when I'm previewing here, I'm actually previewing in this one. Which also means that you could actually use this one when sound designing. So if you're playing here and you want to see how it sounds with a different filter or get an inspiration on how a sweep should work or some kind of PVM should work, so it can be done. Yep. I think that's it.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.